There we go. I think we're probably ready to go now. I am going to compare the session, so I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. If we could ask you to keep your selves on mute throughout, that would be great, and then we will all be able to hear what's happening. If you do have any questions, pop them in the chat, and then we'll either interject and answer them as we go along, or we'll answer them at the end. But any question, no question is too small. If you're thinking it, probably someone else is thinking it too. So really, we're here to think about the Year 6 residential, which is in June, which is probably going to race along. And before we know it, we'll be packing our bags and getting ready to get on the coach and have a great week. It really is a lot of fun. I've got Miss Curtin and Mrs. Ailing here just to explain everything to you. So by the end of this session, you'll have all of the information that you need and the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. So without further ado, we pass over to Miss Curtin and Mrs. Ailing.
Thank you, Mr. Tuck. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Year 6 residential parent webinar. So we are going this year between the 2nd and the 6th of June, and we have our fingers crossed, and we are hoping for warm weather.
Dry.
So, dry.
It's dry.
Warm
As long as it's
weather. Next slide, please, Mr. Tuck.
Okay, so obviously we're going to Land and Wave Purbeck Valley Farm. All activities are set within the natural landscape, so the woodlands, the beaches, on the cliffs. So depending on what activity will be dependent on which location we'll go to. Land and Wave only use experienced staff. They are fantastic. Obviously, I've only been twice. Miss Curtin, you've been how many times now?
Eight times.
And they are brilliant, really, really fantastic. They're good fun, and yeah, they're just brilliant.
It's their passion, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's run by family and friends. They care about what they do. They care about people, us going, schools, especially obviously looking after the children. They're very accommodating and just lovely. They make the week really easy and really fun.
So we are at two different locations. Swanage Beach is where we do probably the most of our activities, paddleboarding, sea kayaking and raft building. And then we would head over to the Jurassic Coast for the coast steering. Coast steering is not one of our activities this year. So most of them will be based at Swanage Beach. And then we will be staying at Purbeck Valley Farm where the evening activities will be there as well. And this is just purely for information, just so you know whereabouts in the UK we are going to be. So you've got both Purbeck Valley Farm and the Swanage seafront and the Jurassic coastline.
It's really nice on the Purbeck Valley Farm. You get like a view of the Cork Castle as well. It's really nice, isn't it? Kind of backdrop. Okay, so Purbeck Valley Farm, obviously where we are staying, they will be sleeping in teepee tents. They will be same sex only, so same gender, boys only, girls only. They'll be with a maximum of up to 5 other children, so 6 children in each tent. It is a private enclosed farm. They do supervise it and have a duty manager all night long. There is gates around, it's all locked up and it is very secure. It is, however, a shared site, so it's with other schools at the same time. So we might be on one side of the field, we'll have another school on the other side of the field. So we'll share it in that sense, but it is safe and enclosed over the night time. Breakfast and evening meals are eaten at the farm in a big kind of hut where we all kind of go. Whereas lunch we take as we go, depending on the activity. So we might take them down to the beach. It's like a packed lunch that we'll take with us, depending on what we do. And the evening activities take place here as well. We just kind of walk from our little tent area to, let's say, the woodland or the campfire, or where else might we do it? In the mess tent as well. We might do some activities, some like little Olympic activities. They're really good evening activities and just very short. So obviously when they're kind of done and dusted, it's just a short walk back to bed. And all good for the evening.
So the accommodation, this is an example of the bell tents. They are pre-pitched, thank goodness. So the children won't be expected to build and erect their tent, but they will be expected to keep it tidy and organised. They are very spacious, which is why we try and fill the tents more for warmth as well, to keep the children warm. There are hot showers and toilet blocks. Word on the street is that we're actually in a different camp this year, which I'm very excited about. Because I've been asking for years. So we're over the bridge. We've got our own kind of field, which is really exciting, with our own set of showers and our own set of toilets. So if nothing changes, yeah, we will be spoilt this year. There are changing areas for wet kit. Again, gender specific. And then there is also a washing line. So if the children come back from a wet activity and the weather, as we hope, is lovely and warm, please do send them with a couple of pegs so they can hang their wet clothes out on the washing lines. And as you can see, we have bolded it, made it larger. Children really do need a warm sleeping bag, a proper camping sleeping bag. I know when I was younger, there would be the odd, like the sleepover sleeping bag, so it's kind of square. You just got to slot yourself in. They are not warm enough. They will not be adequate, and your child will be cold. I cannot stress to you more. There needs to be a proper camping sleeping bag, preferably with the one that comes just up over your head. So if they do feel a little bit of a chill in the evening, they can pull it tight and make sure that that warm air stays inside and keeps them warm and sleeping throughout the night. So yeah, really warm, proper camping sleeping bag and pillow.
Yeah. So these are some of the activities we've got going on. We've got raft building, although I'm not sure if that's on there or not. We're waiting for it to be finalised. We've got kayaking, coast steering, but unfortunately that's not there. We do have making fire, so we go in the woodland, in the bush craft kind of way. We do some archery. We do den building. We do making fires,
hide and seek, which they're really excited about in the woods.
And they're very good at hiding for us to then seek them. The people, what do you call them?
Instructors.
The instructors. Thank you very much. The instructors, they're really good at hiding. So yeah, it's good fun.
So there are obviously a real breadth of different activities, and one of them is going to Dorset Water Park, and like I mentioned earlier, coast steering, which we're not doing. So we will be sending home a paper copy. Some in Pythons have already got it. And Cobras will have theirs sent back tomorrow, and it looks a little bit like this. So it's a two-sided sheet. You need to say on there whether your child can swim 25 metres. That will depend whether they do Dorset Water Park, which is a bit like Liquid Leisure, or whether they do the mud run, which I did last year, which don't think I've had that much fun in a very long time. So both activities are equally as enjoyable, but from a safety perspective, that question on that document is really, really important. We will also be sending through shortly as well an email that will come to your email. There'll be a link and there'll be an online form which will be pinged straight back to Land and Wave as well, which will also include dietary. So there'll be lots of bits and bobs coming back to you soon. So please make sure they are completed at your earliest convenience. But yeah, non-swimmers will do just a separate activity just on that one day. We still go to the same location. We still have the same, we're still all together. It's not that they get siphoned off and sent somewhere different. It's just that they'll do a slightly different activity to make sure everybody is safe.
So meals, we said briefly before, we have the dining marquee, the big tent on campsite. And obviously that's for the breakfast and the dinner. Second.
I was going to say, you can see them being served up. It's changed a little bit since then.
It has changed a little bit since then. It's really lovely food, actually, genuinely hot and cold options for both breakfast and dinner. They've got a lovely salad bar, a bit like the Harvester. Have you ever been there? It's great. Yeah, the evening meals, great, a great variety. I think we had things like burgers, burritos, we had wedges, corn on the cob. I mean, we were very lucky last year, and it's going to be the same this year. So yeah, we will be spoiled as well. Obviously the daily packed lunch, that will just be when we go to breakfast, the children will take their little rucksacks, pick up their lunch, put it in their rucksack, and they'll use their lunch depending on the location that they are for that day. But both breakfast and dinner will be on camp.
I know you said little rucksacks, like just as
sorry, yeah,
not little rucksacks.
Not little.
They need a proper size rucksack. Yeah. So this is an example, and just an example. So breakfast, as Land and Wave agree, as you can see, this is the most important meal of the day. There will always be cereal that they can choose from. There'll be toast with margarine and strawberry, and there have been other jams as well, and there'll always be fresh fruit. But there will also be a breakfast dish of the day. So the top 3 bullet points will be there every day. So cereal, toast, fresh fruit are there every day. And then there will be, dependent on the day, sort of a breakfast dish. So on the Monday, which we will miss, is the overnight oats. Not too fussed about that, but I'm very pleased it will be there on the Tuesday for the breakfast roll. And I'm set again on the Wednesday, another breakfast roll. Even more pleased about Thursday, bacon or cheese turnovers, which are delicious and quite often get a sneaky extra one. And then the Friday, when we're feeling tired and we're ready to come home, which we always are every year after all of the excitement, waffles and pancakes go down a treat. So breakfast options are always very well received. And if we go to the next one, the dinner, again, Land and Wave agree, perfect way to end our day. We're always very hungry come the evening after all of our activities. And again, this is just an example, but it just gives you an idea of the variety of food that the children can have. So Monday again, which we'll miss. Oh, no, we won't. We will be there Monday. Sorry, take that back. Meatball marinara. They've got garlic bread, broccoli, peas. You've got apple cake for dessert. And you can read the rest as you can see on the timetable. But I do want to stress, no child is forced to eat anything. However, we do have a duty of care to make sure that children are eating properly. They have an extensive and very physical timetable while we're away. Yeah. And we need to make sure that we're making sure that they're safe and that they're energized and fueled for what's to come. So please do speak to us. This is an example. We've never had a situation where children haven't eaten anything, and the caterers are very good at speaking to us and us speaking to them, and between the two of us communicating and making sure that everybody leaves that lunch hall or that mess tent, whatever you want to call it, full up and ready for a good night's sleep.
So this is our hopeful itinerary. So on day one, obviously, we will leave here from school. We will travel to Dorset to Purbeck Valley Farm. On that day when we leave, you do need to provide your child with a lunch, preferably in a disposable bag. Just a carry bag's fine. So they can have lunch on that day. You also do need throughout the entire week, but obviously on that day and every other day, you do need a water bottle, preferably one similar to maybe this.
Not one like this. This will get beaten and battered after 4 days. So it needs to be something, a proper water bottle.
Yeah, that it can sustain. And then in the afternoon, so when we get there, we'll have our lunch, and then we'll go for a short walk to Corfe Castle, which is really lovely. We kind of walk around, see the views. We do like a little quiz around the castle, which is really lovely. And then we come back and do our evening activity Nightline. And as you can see, day 2, 3, and 4, as well as 5, but day 2, 3, and 4, we kind of spend either at the beach or on the campsite, kind of mix and match between different activities. And on that last day, we all do some archery, some team building activities. We have some lunch, and then we jump on the coach to come home.
And just to relive some memories, so Nightline on the first night is very funny. It's when all the children get blindfolded. I mean, we're split into smaller groups, so we're not as a whole 60, but maybe into groups of 12, and they're all blindfolded and they're holding each other's, they're all in a line holding each other's shoulders, and they go through almost like an obstacle course, but blindfolded, and there's someone verbally giving them instructions, duck down, step over, and it's watch,
hilarious.
It's very, very funny. I mean, one of my favorite moments was actually watching Mrs. Coleman do it one year. That was an absolute highlight. And then the kayaking and jumbo paddleboarding is great. The jumbo paddleboarding, all the children get to go on it together. There's loads of games that they play. The crabbing and the fish and chips and Swanage. Once we've batted off the seagulls, which don't worry, I have some very good protective measures in place. And then we go crabbing, which again, they just enjoy very much. So Dorset Water Park, I mean, that's explains itself. And the campfire, I think for it to become the end of the week when we can all sit down and there's all the memories and the stories.
And we do singing and stuff as well.
That we can share, a few marshmallows over the campfire. So yeah, it really is a very special week. So we travel by coach. It should take about 2.5 hours, depending on traffic. We do stop halfway where the children can stretch their legs, have a snack and go to the toilet. This year, with numbers, there'll be 4 to 5 staff adults going, both myself and Mrs. Ayling being class teachers, and then some support staff as well. The kit list will be provided. It will come home as a paper version. So like I said, Python's got theirs today. I am pre-warning my Cobra's parents that it is coming home tomorrow, so please look out for it. And the kit list looks a little bit like this. There's some really highlighted parts on there. Please take extra note of. And some red bits as well, again, taking extra note of. In particular, we have one rule, and this rule stands regardless, is that you can bring it if you can carry it. Yeah. So please do not pack your children or give your children any form of luggage that they cannot carry themselves, because they need to be able to carry it themselves. So if you imagine that they need to be able to carry their suitcase from, let's say, the year 6 block to the edge of the field and back again. That would be a good kind of length of distance to make sure that they were going to be able to cope while they're away. The other thing is that it's no mobile phones whatsoever. I have spoken to my class about that, and I know Mrs. Ailing has as well.
I think that's electronic devices in general.
In general, I know we've had some questions about Polaroids. I wouldn't send anything that is of value. No jewelry, no mobile phones, no Polaroids, no watches. We don't even take our smartwatches because you're in and out of wetsuits and you're doing all kinds of activities where, if I'm really brutally honest, they just get in the way. So please don't send any of that. And the other thing is, medicine-wise, that will all be checked in with your child's group leader, which will be shared with you on the morning when you arrive in school. And all medicine, inclusive of vitamins, sickness tablets, throat lozenges, you name it, it needs to be given to an adult. So that we can manage and make sure that everybody is safe at all times. And I think that's it, really. We will also send it on email as well, just in case you lose it. But it's a document, I would say, put on the fridge and tick it off as you sort of start to collect all your bits and bobs. But yeah, they must be able to carry it themselves. So this is an example of the kit list. So we've given you kind of like an idea of sort of suitcase size. I always feel like more information is better. Knowledge is power. So if you know, at least you can then sort of maneuver within the parameters of what the rules are. Please do not bring mobile phones. You can see on the smaller screenshot. Mobile phones, electronic computer games, jewelry, valuables, they're just unnecessary. And actually, for the children to have a week to detox off social media and electronics and technology and actually just enjoy being with their friends and enjoying being outdoors, I think is really, really important. And it says all about medicines on there as well.
Do you want to mention about that bit before we move?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, about the change of clothes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just quickly, we just wanted to mention, sorry, Mr. Tuck, would you mind going back to the previous slide? We just wanted to mention where it says underneath clothes and sleeping, on the one complete change of clothes that stay dry for the duration of the trip, this is purely a pair of clothes that just stay in the tent. So if anything were to happen and they run out of clothes or all their clothes get wet, they have somewhat of a form of clothes to stay dry in and potentially sleep in. And just underneath, there is another one that says waterproof trousers or trousers that can get muddy. It is going to be extremely wet, regardless of whether it is dry or not, because the dew overnight makes the grass extremely wet, and all their trousers are going to get quite wet, especially if they go on the mud run. So I did tell the class, I think Miss Curtin told Cobras and I've told Pythons, that if they do the mud run, then they might want to bring a pair of clothes that maybe they don't mind throwing away or putting into a carrier bag to bring home. I would recommend maybe the throwing away side more so, because they really, really do get covered from head to toe in mud, and it would actually be easier to be able to throw it away rather than put it in their suitcase full of everything and bring it home to you. But obviously, whatever you would prefer.
It does say as well that the shoes that we go into the sea, they cannot be Crocs and they cannot be surf shoes. They have to be an old pair of trainers, and that's because there's a breadth of different activities that we could end up doing. And if we were to be doing something that needed a harder sole, they have to have those or they wouldn't be able to do it. So please don't send Crocs and don't send surf shoes. Make sure they have an old pair of trainers that they can get wet, they can get muddy, and they will just stay wet for the whole week. And then they'll have their dry shoes as well. Sorry, that was a good point. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Go on, you go.
So we leave school prompt at 9 a.m. on Monday. And I say prompt because we do need to get down there because we do have a full action-packed afternoon. So we leave prompt from Waterside Drive. Any help loading the coach is always very much, we are very much thankful of. There are 60 suitcases and there's only 4 of us. So yeah, please do come down and also just wave us off. It's really important that we get to say goodbye. We arrive back at school at 4 p.m. on the Monday. And again, on the Friday. And again, we do collections from Waterside Drive and Mr. Tuck will be over there helping us do that. I did mention it earlier, medicine must be checked in to your child's group leader. We will have some forms as well, so we know the dosage, we know the amount and all of the important information. So all the contact will be through myself. I will have the school mobile phone and I will be doing updates. We haven't decided which medium we're going to use. We have used a Facebook page before to give updates. We have done it through school email. We will communicate to you with how we're going to do that. But we do send photos through every day and we do 2 updates, normally 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, which I will do. Any contact that you need me to have, you obviously will let the school know, and Mr. Tuck will let me know at the earliest like straight away, depending on this, how much of an emergency it is, and vice versa. We will always keep you up to date, and make sure that you're aware of anything that you need to know. And the online form will be sent via Land and Wave to your email, and then we, as a school, as an extra layer of security and information, we will send you a paper version. Now, what date do we need the forms back? Now, the medical form could be sent back tomorrow, but I think you would all agree with me that in year 6, we have sometimes quite a variety of changes of friendship. So what we don't want is for everyone to bring back their accommodation and their 2 friends form tomorrow. And then in a few weeks' time, we end up changing that form numerous times because of fallings out and changes in who we'd like to be in a tent with. So we will ask the children when we need the tent and the medical form back, but we are sending it to you. So if there's any further information you need to acquire, you can do so with enough time in hand. So me and Mrs. Ailing will send an email to all year 6 parents saying, please, could we have the medical and the accommodation form back in on this date? And it'll give the children enough time to let friendship settle, and it'll give us enough time to make sure that we try and make everyone as happy as possible and make sure everybody's good with their tents and their groups. It just means we're not toing and throwing too much. Yeah, and then the online one for Land and Wave can be done as soon as you get the link. The sooner the better for that one. So, any questions?
Absolutely. There are no questions in the chat other than one you've answered about the forms and when they should be returned was the only question. So you'll let everyone know at the point when you want those forms back, but they're going home for your information. If you have any other questions, please feel free to go on to mute, off mute, and shout your question out.
Good evening. Can I ask, please, how many boys in the tent will be in this trip?
So the maximum amount of boys in one tent is 6. And the minimum that we would put in a tent would be 3 to 4, I think.
It's 6 too much, I think.
It keeps them. The tents are quite big, and it also helps with warmth as well because it can get quite cold in there in the evenings.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think we'll stop there. What I would say, though, is that if you have a question at a future point, then please do ask your lovely teachers on the door in the morning or after school, or you can ping an email to the info account and then they will be directed to the right person and we will get back to you. So you might have some individual queries about your child. And if you do, then we'll answer that. Snacks. Tell us about snacks.
We're bringing some.
We're bringing snacks. I think it's important because the thing is, once you have your dinner, there's no fridge just to nip to and have a little snack if, you get a bit hungry. So obviously within reason, and speak to your child about, not eating them all in the first night, not making themselves sick, having a bit of common sense, being sensible about it.
Yeah.
But yes, they can bring snacks, but we are a no nut school, and that is also the same on residential. There are no nuts to be sent whatsoever.
Also, maybe the stickiness of the sweets.
Oh yes.
Be very mindful. Staying in a field, i.e. ants and lots of other creepy little crawlies might want to join in with those snacks. So maybe not the sticky sweets. Maybe like crisps, for an example.
Chocolate is fine.
Chocolate is fine, providing obviously of the nut. I'm trying to think about what else.
But yeah, if they do bring sweets, we will remind them as well. But yeah, there can be a bit ants, and it just
Or at least just make sure they're kept in their packet, just not spread out across the floor.
But yes, snacks are important. Fruit, if you fancy. Yeah. Pocket art. That's a really good question.
That is a very good question.
The children do not need any money at all. if there was to be an emergency, the school has an emergency fund that I take with me, and there is nothing for them to buy while they are away. So yes, please do not send them with any money.
Okay, brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much to Miss Curtin and Mrs. Ayling for a really informative session. I'm a bit jealous that I'm not going. It sounds absolutely brilliant. And thank you to all of you for, kind of joining us and finding out more about the trip. It's going to be really good fun. They're really going to love it. Leah, we'd love to have had you there. I'm sorry that you can't come along. Have a lovely evening, everyone, and we will see you all really soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks all. Thank you.